There's no reason that your character who's journaling has to be a reliable narrator. Who's going to go back and fact check them? If they went into a solo dungeon and they came out of it alive,
let us take this down to the dollar store and we can rumble there. I got 100 bones since this baseball bat is cracking your skull open.
Well, howdy, nearly senior citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends, and welcome to this, a brand new day. My brain is barely functioning. Hokey smokes, I have tried to start this 3 different times, and every single time I have had to stop because of various brain issues, so thumbs up for that. Hopefully I'm going to be able to survive the day. I don't know what the issues are. Either it's a whole bunch of internal stuff, or maybe I'm even dying of something horrible and it's affecting the way that my brain thinks. Who knows? Yay. But I got some sleep last night. That's a good thing. Not an incredible amount, but at least some. The day is gray and diffuse out there, so hopefully it's not going to be a too warm or too cold of a day. I mean, it is mid-September, so yay on that. Hopefully your day as well. Hopefully you've been able to sleep and such. That would be good. And hey, front loading of videos. If you like what you hear and see, if you could hit the like button, that'd be cool. And if also you like what you hear and see and you haven't subscribed, if you could, that'd be very cool. If you could leave me a comment, that would be double plus good. And, itchy nose, I would like to thank each and every one of my Patreon patrons. These literally beautiful and literally awesome people help to keep me and my pets alive. Without these people's help, I would be hosed like a literal Christmas monkey. Son of a gun. I have no idea how long I should be keeping my hands up in the air, so I have lost track of everything. My brain is barely functioning. If you would like to become one of these beautiful and awesome patrons, I have links to my Patreon in the video description. If you'd like to help me out without becoming a patron, there are links to a PayPal for donations. If you'd like to help me out without sending money, there's an Amazon wishlist link. And of course, I have a post office box where you can send me anything at all. I'll open it up on camera because thank you so much. Front loading of videos over. Who knows if I did it even halfway correctly. Oh joy! So yes, indeed, my head is just a mess because of med changes, some of that being my fault, because excuse me, since the weekend I have been taking periodic Ritalin, that's the name of the medication, Ritalin tablets, and I don't know how well my body is liking that because I'm not doing any of these things consistently. It's just taking them every once in a while, and I'm already having foggy issues because of my ADHD, where I am on my personal autism spectrum, my depression, all of these fun things. My head is just a mess right now. I have my therapist appointment today, so I'm going to be talking about all of these things with my therapist, so hopefully things will turn out okay. Everything is not a nightmare, but excuse me, especially yesterday, I did not get much done creatively. I have, with the more physical energy that I have, did some more tidying that made things tidier and not at the same time. I got things tidied up over here on the hamster section so that that's tidier. But if things aren't available and visible, I forget that they're there. So I've got to have things available. I have this little table over here that I keep my supplements and such on, dietary supplements. Well, I've got them in organized boxes. But things still have to be available and visible or they're gone to me. So now, instead of everything loose, I have just some boxes on the floor with my stuff in them. That's not really a big help. Now they're taking up more space than they had been. They're not falling all over and more organized, so they're not spreading out. But still, instead of just being on one table, now there's a table and an area filled up with boxes with my stuff. So, on the one hand, cleaner and more organized, and on the other, more space being used up. So hopefully I'm going to be able to get things working up here in the outside world and get stuff done that way. Yay! So at least I got some of that done. I did some recording, had some fun with that, but didn't get much creative stuff done even when I was out on walkies. I mean, I've thought of some things, and I've tried to work on other concepts that I have with the entire project that I've got going. So it's not like it's totally useless, but I really can't even remember the things that I went over last night while I was walking. Some of the stuff is just thinking about life, which makes it harder to concentrate on the other things. And with stuff happening in my life right now, with the definite risk of becoming homeless even more than it has been over the past couple of years, I got a lot of stressors up here inside of my head, making it difficult to think. So joy on that. But I'm trying. I'm doing my best. There are some other things that aren't horrific that I do want to talk about. One of the things is going back to solo RPGs. The difference between like D100 Dungeon and the game Note Quest. Because the problem with something like D100 Dungeon, because it's covering everything in a random order, as you're playing it, there is no thematic cohesion to the dungeons that you're going into. Zero thematic cohesion. Every room is just randomly generated. And so you have to work on it afterward to try and figure out any thematic cohesion. Now, I'll mention what that means in a different way. In Note Quest, when you go into a dungeon to take on the boss, each 2-page spread is roughly the same as every other 2-page spread, but each 2-page spread that you go on to explore the dungeon is thematically consistent. You're going into a tomb of some kind. And so every table is about what's in that tomb. You found an old ruined temple. Every table is about the things you find in the temple. You found an old palace. Every table was about the stuff in the palace. Every table is thematically cohesive to the location you're going into, from the monsters to what you find. Every dungeon has its own theme. Back to D100, there is no theme. There can't be. It has to cover everything, every situation. You can come up with thematic cohesiveness after the fact. The one game that I've got that I showed off the latest map of, because it was being generated just randomly, as I was playing, it had no thematic cohesiveness. It was just random rooms with one that had a crystal tree, one was like lava pits and stuff in it, and others were just random rooms that had no rhyme or reason to them. They were just rooms. After the fact, you can do all sorts of stuff. And this ties into another type of solo RPGing, which I'll come into in a moment. After the fact, you can go and make it all thematically cohesive. Like with that dungeon where I mentioned the lava and the crystal stuff, the crystal tree in the various rooms. Well, after the fact, you put it together and you can say, oh, this would be a broken down temple type thing in a land where there was some kind of volcanic eruption. Most of this temple was broken and burned, so there are halls that end in just crushed stuff, and the things that you find, well, every room is decorated in the same fashion. You know, there's the room with the crystal tree. It's not just a random tree underground. No, it fits in with a thematic cohesiveness. This room was dedicated for this tree, with the remnants of what the room would have looked like and how beautiful and how put away this tree was. And now it's just broken with the tree still growing there. The lava pit, well, because of the seismic eruption and half of this temple being destroyed and ruined by the lava, well, it's just a lava tube has broken through the various walls and such, and there's lava pouring still now through the room as the volcano continues to be a volcano. So after the fact, you can do it thematically to make it work. Not while you're doing it, but after the fact. Now again, this ties into a different type of creative solo RPGing, which I really can't do. As much as I'm a writer, one of the things that really gets into with this type of role-playing, and there are a lot of games that are dedicated to this type, you don't just do tables. You don't just do dungeon crawling. You have to answer... God, let's try and ADHD my way out of this. You do creative writing and journaling while you're doing your play. After the fact, you have your character writing in their journal, or you write in the journal for them, but you are journaling what's happening. A lot of games are primarily, you do most of it as journaling, and they give you prompts, and you journal out your answer to the prompt, and that's a huge part of the game. So, after the fact with D100 Dungeon, it really lends itself to after the fact journaling, because all the stuff that I just mentioned about the thematic cohesiveness of it would have been after the fact. You put it together and then you write it down to show what actually happened in that dungeon from the bare bone skeleton. And of course, with journaling, one of the things, if you're doing it as the character, remember, journaling, there is in fiction the concept of the unreliable narrator, where the person may even be first person, you know, the whole story may be first person, or I went into this room and I did this and this happened. And in the unreliable narrator, they may not be telling the truth, or they may be exaggerating, or there may be outright lies to make them look better. But as the writer, you have to show the inconsistencies happening in the background. Maybe the character writing the story didn't want the inconsistencies to happen, so you can piece the real story together. There's no reason that your character who's journaling has to be a reliable narrator. Who's going to go back and fact check them? If they went into a solo dungeon and they came out of it alive, who's going to say, no, I don't think you really did fight that particular monster in this way? They weren't there. So your unreliable player character, when they're writing this thing up, can really make themselves sound good. Don't go crazy, of course, but they don't have to be a reliable narrator for your story. So thumbs up on that. I, as stated, am not so much into that type of the solo RPGing. I'm more into the mechanical dice rolling and mapping and doing combat type of stuff. I am good at some types of abstract things. Other types of abstract things I just can't do. And the abstract journaling and some abstract forms of other types of solo RPGing I can't do. That's just beyond me. It's like trying to human being. That most of the time I don't understand what I have to do to human being. This type of RPGing I can't do because I just can't do it on my own. I don't know how to do that sort of thing. But just mentioning that as options, there are all sorts of cool things. There's also a place called Print and Play Arcade. I think I mentioned it yesterday, where they have a lot of free print and play games where you download the PDF, print it off, and then you play it. One of them is actually a 3-page game because it comes in 3 booklets. There's the rule book, there's a journal book, and there's the event book. Each one of these is 1 page, and the rule and the journal page also includes the map and the character sheet. So it's a lot of dense information at the same time being really simple, because the rules do fit on that 1 page. The journal does fit on the 1 page. All the events do fit on the 1 page. It may be dense, but it's there. It's got kind of a sad ending. It's called 6x6 Fantasy. It's got like a 36 You know, it's 6 by 6 squares, and you map out the dungeon on that. Well, it's not a dungeon, it's an overworld thing. The idea being the island is being overrun by monsters, and it's up to you to save the people. The ending of the game is you leave the island on a boat because you couldn't save the island from all the monsters. So, predetermined sad ending. But what happens from the moment you start until that ending is going to be different. It's got the same story beats, same events happen on same days, but the way they happen with your character and how you deal with them are going to be different, and the map is going to be different each time. So there are a lot of options for a lot of things, and this isn't even counting the professionally produced and buy through stores solo RPGs. They're more board game, less RPG, but there are a lot of them. And there's not just like, I mentioned 4 Against Darkness, which is, they're cheap in that they're only like 8 to 12 bucks for the books, but you have to buy a stack of books that thick, and each one of them is about this big. And they're 8 to 12 bucks a pop. So to play 4 Against Darkness fully, you need a lot of books, a lot of money. I think I was talking about board games and how expensive they are. I know I talked about the solo board gaming part. Oh God, I love ADHD. And so, yeah, you do the dungeon adventures with these board game things, and they can be expensive. There's one game called Iron Helm, which looks really cool. It's like a roguelike. You're an adventurer going on one last adventure before they retire. You are old and grizzled. This is your last adventure before you retire. You may not survive it. There are so many supplements for this game. Lots of them. So to get a full experience, it's gonna be expensive, because a physical game like that is expensive in the first place. Hokey smokes. And I've opened up 24 hours worth of comments in my community tab. Gonna go through and thank however many people have left me comments in the past 24 hours. If I mispronounce the username, no disrespect is intended. And even though I count in American Sign Language, well, you've already seen how my brain functions. Oh, itchy spot on my neck. Yay. Call it my Chrome. I did not have many comments from yesterday. That's fine. Anything more than 0 is awesome. Thank you very much. And of course, if you've watched this far, thank you so very much. It is greatly appreciated. Nobody is forcing you to. And the great number of people just stop watching after 1 to 3 minutes. So if you watched this far, thank you so very much. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. We have Jesse Koskinen. Solo RPGs can be very fun. They honestly can. You have to find the right one, but they can be great. And it's good to see you in the comments, my friend. Always a good thing. Unbearable Suffering, with a very, very good point about the murder simulation that is the game Morrowind. JAYY, always good to see you in the comments. Glad that you were able to sleep. Always a good thing, and never fear. Bring up whatever you would like in the comments. That is A-OK. Insignificant Nick, that's right. Cough, cough. Ugh, those Orsimer and their smoking habits. We have the Horror Files. Greatly appreciated, and thank you very, very much. RJ Mitchell, thumbs up and thank you, and you are absolutely welcome. There is Ben B, always good to see you in the darkness. In the darkness? Always good to see you in the comments. And, you know, as much as I love Doctor Who, I used to read all of the novelizations of the show when I was a kid. I've never actually seen it. I even have a favorite doctor, but I've never seen it. And that is it. 7 people who left me comments in the past 24 hours. Greatly appreciate it. Get me out of my head, into the world, dealing with real people, if only for a short time, and if only in text. Thumbs up for that. Well, hokey smokes, I hope you can get done the things that you need to get done today. I've gotten barely anything done in the past week, and I shouldn't feel bad about it, but I do, on top of everything else, which doesn't help in here. Joy. And of course, with diseases just raging, and everyone around the world has given up on even trying to take care of any pandemics, be smart for your location and your situation. You don't need to get sick for any reason. Doesn't matter what the illness is. You don't need to get sick. So, until we meet again, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and that is a very good thing.